everybody and welcome. I'm Jared, and in this video I want to introduce you guys to After the Tearing. After the Tearing is a TTRPG that I've been working on for a bit now, and I decided I wanted to document my process and hopefully provide some insight for tabletop RPG design in general. I noticed when I was first working on After the Tearing that there wasn't a ton of great resources on YouTube. There was a little bit, but nothing that extended for like multiple videos, nothing that really was exactly what I wanted it to be. And I ended up relying a lot on homebrew D&D stuff, and different things like that. And it's definitely helped. It's definitely been YouTube has still been a great resource. But I decided I kind of wanted to, in part, I already kind of wanted to do this for After the Tearing, but I also decided that because there wasn't a ton of TTRPG design stuff in general, I wanted to hopefully, filter in some of that with After the Tearing and then provide some tips and different things and maybe even some additional videos, maybe a separate playlist or something. But that was kind of my reasoning for making this. I figured, on top of that, it would be great to share just my process and, build up a community for After the Tearing, and ideally get some other ideas, get some additional insight into some of the stuff that I'm working on, have just different people give their insight on different things, ideally, give suggestions for additional character options for different equipment and all that, and I'll get into that later as well. But After the Tearing itself is kind of the culmination of a lot of years of different projects that I kind of set my benchmark at third grade. That was when I really started to write and do a bunch of creative projects and different stuff like that, none of which has really come to fruition. After the Tearing is the thing that I am forcing myself to finally see to fruition, to finally see complete. In between that time, I've done a ton. I've done a lot of different things, but nothing that has even been remotely close to being publishable or really released to the general public. And that's why it's just the culmination of a lot of different projects. It's very much a passion project at this point. And that's why I decided I wanted to finally do this. I wanted to finally kind of have some accountability, I guess, in a sense, is what me doing this in this way kind of forces an expectation upon myself that ideally other people are concerned with the progress that's being made, concerned with it actually being finished. So that's, yeah, it's a lot of different things that are kind of finally driving me to do this. I'm at that point in my life where I want to take the time to see if I can really do what I'm passionate about and not have to, worry about taking care of other things at the moment. Between this and a few other things, I kind of tricked myself, kind of forced myself to work on After the Tearing. You'll hear me complain that there's some things that I don't have like the perfect name for. I'm not 100% certain on some things. And the way I work, I would have spent weeks trying to find the perfect name, get things, perfect while I was first starting. And I decided, just screw it. I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna do it. It doesn't have to be perfect right now. Not every single thing has to be perfect. I just need a stand-in there that makes sense for the time to get moving forward. And I guess that would be my first tip for tabletop RPG design. Is just start. Just make, don't make gigantic compromises, but if you have to change names or something and get back to something later, don't feel forced to come up with the perfect thing right now. Just get working, just get started. Because like I said, I would have burnt myself out trying to get things perfect. And thankfully for my sake, I was working off a lot of different things that I already kind of had in my back pocket, across my computer, across different notebooks and stuff. And most of it was in here. Most of the stuff up here doesn't even make it out. But a lot of it has been providing me a lot of things to fall back on and a lot of things to pull from to make After the Tearing what it is. Um, so getting into what actually is After the Tearing. After the Tearing is a classless tabletop RPG set in a modern, a little bit postmodern apocalypse. There's humans, there's the extraplanar races that come from the Reach, a little bit more on that later. But there is magic, there's modern weaponry, there's, like I said, it's a little bit postmodern, so there's a little bit of, advanced tech, a little bit of like superhero level gear, some crazier stuff, some really crazy stuff actually once you get into higher levels. And there's, of course, combinations of high fantasy magic and that advanced technology, and there's some overlaps between them. Some of them are completely separate. And the end result ends up being a combination of Mad Max, cyberpunk, kind of a little bit of Elder Scrolls Oblivion, Fallout, some just like your traditional high fantasy stuff, some skirmish style combat, and some gritty survival elements as well. So for some backstory, you have Earth, traditional Earth. It's again one of those things where I'm not 100% sure if it's still gonna be Earth. I wasn't super ready to just call it like Terra or whatever, like alternate Earth names exist in like a bunch of other media. So again, one of those things I'm kind of stuck on, but also I don't really care at this moment. I can figure that out like a week before release. I can just change a bunch of names. But, basically Earth, you have Earth, and then you have a twin plane to Earth, the Reach. And the Reach is where all of these extraplanar races, kind of like the fantasy races of After the Tearing, have been living for, thousands of years. They've been warring amongst each other, and they've been having all of their issues and everything. And the Reach is the place of magic, where magic comes from in After the Tearing. And after some issues going on in the Reach, after some events transpired, a large number of the extraplanar races had to, open up some portals, escape to Earth, which they kind of knew was there. There's some things that I'm not 100% sure if I want there to be some like past historical twists to like traditional Earth history to make that. But anyways, the extraplanar races came to Earth, and all humans are like, who the hell are these people? They, had to struggle to even be recognized as equal to humans, I guess. Not humans, but equal to humans, as, sentient humanoid beings. And over like 9 or 10 years, they slowly kind of integrated into society. There was definitely a lot of rough patches. There was increases in crime and stuff, and a lot of the extraplanar races just didn't even want to be there, but they kind of had to be because they were refugees at this point. And after so many years, a few of them weaseled their ways into better positions, political positions even. They became kind of assistants to a lot of wealthy individuals, some corporations and such. And all of this time, there's like different rungs of society. A lot of them ended up on, just like working and barely getting by. A lot of them ended up in like really bad economic positions. They just were really, really struggling to accommodate all of these races. And because magic was this crazy new thing that people were now being exposed to, it kind of became the new drug epidemic. And you have some of the more illicit members of the extraplanar races like selling like single page instructions on how to cast magic to like teenagers and stuff. You have kids literally setting themselves on fire because they don't know how to properly cast the magic. And that's actually one of the inciting incidents of a different thing that I had been working on that ended up being able to tie perfectly into After the Tearing. And hopefully I can get into that in a different video, because I'd love to explore that further. So yeah, you have like all of this stuff is, you just have kind of a havoc ongoing throughout the entire world at this point. But you have, you know, all of these corporations and wealthy individuals are now starting to think that they can use magic for their own means. They can kind of turn it into an economic powerhouse, really. And you now have these people are employing others. Most of the time, they weren't even messing around employing extraplanar races. They were just kind of en masse employing people to be able to cast magic, to experiment with different things. And half the time, these people didn't even know what they're doing. And so you have all of these really bad casters causing a lot of issues between the separation between Earth and the Reach. And all of these, the remnants, the residue of all these portals that the extraplanar races used to get to Earth start having some issues. They start rippling, and the separation between Earth and the Reach starts to decay. And that's when you have the tearing. It's when you have these portals opening up haphazardly. Nobody's really controlling them. They're just opening here and there at random all across Earth. And eventually you start having the demons, all of these entities from the Reach that kind of feed off of the magic. They're kind of, the embodiments of evil, all of the bad things, but they're corporeal. The demons start to realize, hey, everybody left the Reach, because you have different levels of demons. There's the ones that are just like basically mindless, but then you also have the ones that are conniving and have intelligence and understand what's going on. And they start sending demons through these portals, which immediately start to terrorize various places on Earth. And you have all of these world governments start to worry. They start to get word that things are going down, and they're going to the extraplanar races being like, what the hell are you guys doing? What's going on? And half of them don't even know at this point. You end up having kind of this roulette of death eventually. It just spirals out of control, where you have it's just a random chance 24/7 whether there's going to be a portal, a tear opening up in your backyard. And eventually the world governments aren't able to keep this on the DL anymore. They've been trying to stave off mass panic and anarchy and chaos, and it ends up just being too much. There's like social media reports and stuff. People are recording stuff on their phones. Everybody can see it. The governments and everything are trying to take it down as soon as it's being uploaded, and it's just not enough. And all this time, the people that have been employing some of the extraplanar races to assist them, the people that are very wealthy and powerful, have been kind of getting word that all this is going on, while the general population still doesn't really know. And they start, gathering up their resources, preparing for kind of worst case scenario. And that's when you end up having all these corporate city-states start, turtling in on themselves. World governments are falling. Chaos is just rampant. People don't know what to do. You have places where they've centralized kind of all of their wealth and their power. They've hired paramilitaries, and they've built walls around these cities in weeks. They start offering people that work for them, other people that they would find value in, they start offering them safety. They start offering them a place that's not just wide out in the open, someplace that should be protected by all of these hordes of demons. And eventually these become the last bastions of society, really. You have governments just can't handle it anymore. There's plenty of capital cities that are just completely ransacked, just annihilated overnight. and it's there's still people that are in like more rural areas that, with a few guns and a small farm, they're able to survive. They just haven't lost this roulette. There's nothing. The only things that have come through is a few small demons they were able to take care of it in an afternoon. It's all random chance, day in and day out, whether or not you're gonna wake up and there's gonna be a giant troll thing just tearing down your house. Most people would rather just be in the city states and be protected in that way. But at this point, after 70 years, after the tearing occurs in the year like 2100, about it's 70 or so years since the initial tearing, which is 9 or 10 years after the convergence when the extraplanar races first came to Earth. Now you have these corporate city-states are just filled to the brim with corruption, but most of the people in there don't even care because they don't have to worry about, they'd rather have to deal with all of the issues on the inside rather than dealing with all the demons on the outside. And now you have the wastes everywhere that's not kind of reinforced by corporate wealth. You have people that are just kind of building up new little ramshack towns, and that's when you start getting like the whole Mad Max vibe. There's just raiders driving around doing their thing. Demons are still prowling around killing people, and every day is just a question of survival. But now with all these corporate powers, there's no government oversight really. They start going full on and developing new weapons, developing crazy medical tech where once you have enough wealth, you can start getting cybernetics and all of that stuff. And that's where you get like the cyberpunk aspect to it. And you have people that are realigning themselves with magic. You have people that believe magic is evil, and they'll kill a magic user on sight. And so you have all this variety of different people and different groups that are trying to survive in their own ways and doing their own thing. And so you have like the normal progression of the game would be you would have your players start out in the wastes with their characters, and they go through progression through getting a better vehicle, doing vehicle upgrades and stuff, and fighting their way through raiders and different things, and eventually getting an into one of the corporate cities. And then they can go between the wastes and the corporate cities, maybe some other corporate cities that they've weaseled their way into. They can do, political intrigue stuff in there. They can just blow the whole place up, do whatever they want, gain more equipment, and get more powerful stuff. And eventually, by like the end game, you have your players going into the Reach through these tears and stuff. Kind of going through the ruins of the lost societies that the extraplanar races had to leave behind, and they're hunting for like super crazy like magic relics and things like that, while they're like completely overwhelmed by demons, which I think is kind of like an OG D&D type of thing. I guess it was more like just purely dungeon delving, but I guess that is also similar to another tabletop game that I have not really gotten into at all, but I'm familiar with through Tabletop Minions. Great, amazing channel, Tabletop Minions. But he was talking about Frostgrave, which is, I guess, more along the lines of what I'm talking about, going in for extraction and like risk versus reward for the lives of your characters, I guess. But Frostgrave is more of it's not really, I guess it's kind of skirmish style, but it's more of like a one player or like two player type thing. Yeah, and so that's kind of the general progression of everything. And at that point, you have either like crazy tech stuff, crazy magic stuff, a combination of the two, and all of this after the tearing is pulled from a lot of different games that I've played, especially tabletops, video games, movies, everything. Like I've been pulling from Dungeons and Dragons, multiple versions of Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer 40K, Warhammer Kill Team, Gaslands was one of the things that like really kicked after the tearing off. And if you're not familiar with Gaslands, it is awesome, and I'm sure I'll get into that in another video. And one of the other things that helped, that really gave me the itch to make something like this is, funny enough, the music video from Five Finger Death Punch, House of the Rising Sun. They have like a 2.5 minute clip at the beginning of the music video where they're in like a Mad Maxy style like thing. I mean, the whole video actually is that, but the whole video, it's just the beginning. I know because it's a remix of one of their other songs, and I want that to be a full remix. Anyways, that's completely off topic. So that music video was, I love just watching the music video. The song's great. I love just watching the music video, and that is, I've pulled one of the things from that video that I need to develop a little bit further, but I'll get to that at another point, but if you go and watch it, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. Anyways, I'm super, all of this stuff is stuff that I've absolutely loved, and finding a way to combine it all in one project is something that I'm super excited about. This, just working on it and sharing it and being able to bring other people in that hopefully can appreciate it nominally as much as I am right now, is something that I really want to do. As usual, I'm always going to ask you guys to throw some stuff in the comments section, whether it's ideas for character options, different suggestions on gameplay, critiques. You want to bash me about something, go ahead. I'll take it. At this point, I've already had to have plenty of discussions with friends of mine who've kind of grilled me, sometimes jokingly, but grilled me into like why the world needs After the Tearing. You know, part of it's like, well, I don't really care. I'm making a game. This is what I want to do. But, you know, it's different things like that. Go for it. And I want to just, of course, a big thank you to everybody who stopped in today to watch this. Ideally, I would love to develop like a thank you page of some sort, have it, you know, in the final published stuff of anybody that's helped to contribute somehow. I'll organize that up. But I want to give credit to everybody who's helped this project so far, especially everybody who's already helping me and everybody that's going to be helping me in the future. Thank you so much, everybody. And ideally, I'd love to do some streams and stuff, maybe even like some one shots once we get a little bit further along in some playtesting. There's some other stuff that I want to do as well in tabletop design in general, different projects and stuff. But that's kind of, you know, this is more or less After the Tearing focus, but I'm still going to be doing some other things as well. And again, I want to thank everybody for watching. I'll be doing a bunch of After the Tearing stuff in the future. Hopefully I can, you know, throw in there additional stuff that I've learned and kind of taught myself for TTRPG design. Remember, tip number 1, just start. Just go for it. So thank you, everybody. I'm Jared. This is After the Tearing, and I will catch you all later.